There's a famous psychologist who started he started what was called Boys Town in America. And this was back in the 50s, I think, maybe even earlier. And he was giving a lecture about psychology to a group of priests, young galachim. And they were very impressed. And they came to him afterwards and they said, where can we learn more? We want to learn more about this. And he got very upset. He said, the reason we have so many patients and so many clients is because you're not doing your job. So don't learn more psychology, do your job better, and then we won't have so much work. Then he wrote a book, because of that encounter, he wrote a book called Whatever Became of Sin. Sin. He says, we used to know that certain things are sinful. This is a sin. But then they changed it to antisocial behavior. And then they changed that to inappropriate acting out. Now they changed it to alternative lifestyle. So we got to go back to knowing what's a sin. That's important to mental health. Ready? So, as we're getting the camera ready, let me tell you a quick story. I'm sitting in a Chabad house. I get a phone call. There's a woman, a little bit hysterical. She says, Rabbi, yeah, is adultery a sin? I said, yeah, big sin. She says, thank you. She hangs up the phone. I said, yes. She calls back a while later. Says, you're probably wondering what that was all about. I'm in recovery. I'm an alcoholic. I'm in recovery, and I'm doing the fifth step. The fifth step in AA is where you talk to somebody about your issues. After making a list of everything, you discuss it. So she's talking to this counselor, and she said to him, I know why I'm drinking. I'm guilty. I feel terrible guilt. I committed adultery. I sinned. And the counselor said, no, we don't call it sin anymore. That's not helpful. She said, but I sinned. He says, well, it was not, one second, if I remember it correct, it was not a life-supporting decision under the circumstances. She says, no, it was a sin. And he says, don't call it that. We don't think like that anymore. So she said, wait a minute, hold on. She ran to the phone, calls me, asked me, is it a sin? Yeah, it is. And she went back and said, yeah, it's a sin. Give me a little credit. As a verzindigt, Take that away from me also? So it doesn't work to ignore the moral issues, and it is very healthy to know the moral issues. To know what is allowed and what is not allowed is the basic definition of sanity. Now, if you're hoping to discuss mental health and emotional health and what to do about it, I'm not sure that we need to get involved in this. If you're thinking about your own sanity, that we can talk about. But we shouldn't become therapists or amateur psychologists. If somebody has a serious problem, there are many, many ways that people are being treated these days. It's not all chemicals and drugs. There are many, many, many good programs. Some of them are new and a little controversial, but if you hear of something that works, it's worth trying and recommending. And what I want to talk to you is about something a little bit futuristic. What's going to be with mental health? Because it seems to be really elusive and difficult to remain sane. What is going on? Tanya, Chassidus is supposed to be the cure for the machla before Mashiach comes. Which machla? So let's take a quick look at what's going on. The biggest problem, mental, emotional problem, is the Eitz Hadas. The Eitz Hadas is where human beings receive the chush, or the sense of self-aware. The Eitz Hadas is Tevara, because being self-aware is the best thing in the world, and it's the worst thing in the world. It is Tev and Ra. Without self-awareness, you're not a person, you don't have bechira, you can't have an opinion, you can't even be good. Because who's being good? On the other hand, there is the snake part of self-awareness, and that is selfish and narcissistic and self-absorbed. I saw a sikha from the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, and a Maimon, there was a Maimon, not a sikha. He says like this: a person who is self-aware and is murgish, he feels himself very deeply. Even his kindness is selfish. He will do you a favor, and he will let you know that he did you a favor. And his kindness can become so difficult that es can verbitteren dem Leben for the one that he's being kind to. It can make your life miserable with kindness, till the point where it becomes shichas domim. That is the negative side of Eitz Hadas. And what is the tikkun that we still need? Which aveda are we still suffering from and need to fix? Eitz Hadas. So if you look around and you see what's going on in the world today, the most popular, the most common disease is self. The awareness of self. People have become so sensitive, so delicate, that if it doesn't go exactly the way you want or the way you hoped, you can't handle it. So issues that were never issues before are suddenly intolerable. People crack up from the strangest things. So the old form of psychology has to adjust. The old form of psychology is, if something very seriously threatening, traumatic, overwhelming happened, that will cause emotional disturbance. Today, you go to a psychiatrist and he's looking for that terrible event that there isn't. There was no terrible event. My mother didn't love me. Yeah, she did. Not what I needed, not the way I wanted. And that's it? And then your life falls apart? What is that? So let's listen. For some reason, in the past, all of history, we accepted, we tolerated, we understood. You gotta do what you gotta do. Right? That was like norm. The norm was that life has certain requirements. You got to do what you got to do. So in the olden days, you got to plow the field in the season. If you miss the season, it's going to be terrible. You have to plow now. And they did. You have to get up early in the morning to milk the cow. You have to milk the cow. So they did. Today, you don't have to get up to milk the cow. Today, you have to get up to catch the bus, the school bus. You're in kindergarten, and you have to get up. Otherwise, you'll miss the bus. And you can't miss the bus because you have to go to school. You have to go to school because you have to graduate. And you have to graduate to get a job. And you have to get a job to make money. And you have to make money to be able to buy food and stuff. And you have to be able to buy food and stuff, otherwise you're going to die. See here what life is all about? Everything in life is about don't die. You want to die? Don't die. For some reason this worked for almost all of history. Today, it stopped working. It's not working. You say to a child, you have to do this, and he has a nervous breakdown. Or a tantrum, at least. But you have to do this. I don't want to. The burdens, the have to, you have to, you need to, you must. It's become unbearable. Just to make it a little funny, you're suffering from all these burdens and you need relief, so you go for therapy. What happens when you come to the therapist? You tell them, all these obligations, responsibilities, I don't like it, it's too heavy, what can I do? And the psychiatrist says, you think that's your problem? No, your problem started at birth. Your mother wanted a girl and you're a boy, and then she was disappointed, and your siblings, they love them more than you, and you gotta wait. There's more that I gotta do? You're not helping. So what do? You go to religion, right? God is gonna help. You come to religion, you find out, those are the problems you have in this world. When you come to the next world, there's going to be problems there. You better. So there's no escape. To put it very simply, the Frume Zayde says to his Eidekel, Darf's daven, darf's machen a bracha, darf's gehen in yeshiva. The kid says, darf nicht. What does the grandfather say? Yeah, du musst, du darfst. Nee, ich darf nicht. Eventually, sooner or later, the Zayd is going to have to say, es brennen in Gehenna. The kid says, don't threaten me. Enough with the threats. If I don't get a job, I'll die from hunger. If I don't make a bracha, I'll go to hell. What the hell? I don't care. I don't care anymore. This is what is happening to our mental condition in our time today. I don't care. Love it up. Don't threaten. So Mrs. Reagan, a while ago, advised teenagers not to take drugs. Just say no. And the teenagers are still waiting for the punchline. Just say no, why? Because it can kill me? Well, that's the fun of it. People do dangerous things. You could get killed doing this. Yeah. What's your point? All of a sudden, this threat isn't working. Now, is this good news or bad news? Good news or bad news? What's going to be when Mashiach comes? We're going to make brachas? We're going to daven every day? Why? What are you going to say after Mashiach comes to convince your kid to do a mitzvah? Well, what's going to be? You're going to die? No, I'm not going to die. What do you mean? Am I going to Gehenna? No, Gehenna is finished. Now what? We have to have a better argument than you're going to die. It's not working. In fact, if you want a person to be healthy, the healing, the cure that we need today is to cure the Eitz Hadas. I have to. What's going to be with me? What am I going to be when I grow up? Why does nobody love me? Why doesn't anybody care about me? All of that, it's stopping. I don't care. Attention. So let me die. Leave me alone. This is good news if we go about it in a healthy way. The good news is, you're right. You're right. Too many obligations, too many, you must and you have to and you need. No. There's nothing I must and there's nothing I need. Nothing. The Rebbe made it a policy based on Ani le'nevresi elo l'shamash eskayni. This is the mental health cure of our generation. You want to raise healthy children, you want to be healthy yourself, you want to help somebody. They sit down and they tell you they have this need and that need and this worry and that worry and what's going to be. If you can help them, if you can explain to them and make them comfortable with the idea that ani lo nivres, as far as I'm concerned, I don't need any of this. Lump it up. I don't need to be born. That's why the Rebbe preferred this version, this girsa. Not ani nevresi l'shamish, ani lo nevresi elo. This is the whole story. We just have to be able to explain it. You don't need v'harayim. You don't need to be born. You don't need to live. You don't. So when a kid says, I'm not going to clean up my room. I didn't ask to be born. Or like this guy who's suing his parents, or tried to sue his parents, that they should pay all his bills for the rest of his life because they gave birth to him without his consent. They threw it out of court. The judge threw it out of court. I think the reason is because the parents, when they were asked, what did you do? They said, hey, we didn't ask to be born either. Talk to grandpa. So they talked to grandpa and he said, I didn't ask to be born. So we have to go back to Adam and Chabad. So at first it sounds like a joke. He's upset that he wasn't asked. But it's not a joke. It's what's changing now, Erev Moshiach. This is what's happening. I didn't ask to be born. Ich darf das nicht. Ani lo nevresi. If you're asking me, I don't want to be born. Let me know. Why? Because I don't need it. So if I don't need to be born, how do I need to get a job? This is this guy's time. You went ahead, gave birth to me, and now you want me to pay the bill? How chutzpah is this? So I have to get a job, I have to go to work, I have to pay the bills, I have to pay the taxes, I have to pay the mortgage. Not me. Ani le'nevresi. Ella. So why am I here? I don't have needs. I am needed. This is Chassidus, this is Yiddishkeit, this is the Rebbe's formula and prescription for sanity in our world today as a preparation for Mashiach. As we fix the Eitz Hadas, and I get rid of that selfish me, what about me, what's going to happen? If I stop being motivated by the need to succeed and the need to eat and the need to live and the need to avoid Gehenna, if I get rid of all of that, what am I going to be left with? You're going to be left with the fact that you are necessary and needed for the kavanah of the Tachlim. See, if you're secular or from without Chassidus, you have a serious problem. If I don't need, if I don't suffer from my own ego needs, then what? Then I'll kill myself. Then there's no point to anything. If it's not about me, then there's nothing. So in secular psychology, they're afraid to suggest this. You don't need. You didn't ask to be born. You're a guest. Sit and enjoy. You don't need anything. You don't have to anything. Oh, well then what's left? If your whole Yiddishkeit is because you want to get to Gan Eden, and you're told, no, you don't need to, then that's it. It's all over. I heard this terrible word. Two fromme people are sitting and talking. And one of them said, why is it that if you're not Jewish, you can convert and become a Jew? But if you're Jewish, you can't convert and stop being Jewish. Why is it like that? And the other one said, well, Pasha, if a Jew could convert and stop being Jewish, everybody would. This is Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. What would we do if we don't have to? That's why you have to have the second half of the Pisgah, of the Elo. So why am I here? I am more needed than I am needy. This is a hachana to Mashiach. So when we're supposed to start preparing and thinking Mashiach-dik, and live Mashiach-dik, what does that mean? Just stop paying your bills? Mashiach will pay them? What's going to be when Mashiach comes? And Ruach Hatum Ha'avim min ha'eretz. And only the good part of the Eitz Hadas will remain. What's going to wake you up in the morning? L'smeach b'simchas Hashem. This is what is going to keep us normal or sane in our time. If you can't enjoy the fact that you are necessary and needed, and that you have to accomplish something for the Eibishter, then you have nothing left. Because the old way is just not working anymore. So when people say, I didn't ask to be born, this is the cure. This is the good news. Because once you get that half right, then it's easy to get the second half right. Ani loy nivreisi. Okay, so tell me what I'm doing here. And then everything becomes healthy and normal and happy. So when Mashiach comes, and the Rebbe says very strongly, mitzvahs are not betelis la'ased loving. Chas v'sholem. Primarily the Rebbe says, mitzvahs can't be betelis la'ased loving because the Rambam paskins that the mitzvahs are la'ilom la'ilmei elomim. And you don't mess with the Rambam. If the Rambam paskins, then it can't be any other way. So the mitzvahs are not betelis la'ased loving. The mitzvahs are not given for our benefit because we don't need anything. So why? Why Mesiras Nefesh? Because there is a much greater, more important reason to live than your needs. And that is Dira B'Tachtenim. And just for the record, Dira B'Tachtenim doesn't mean the Eibishter needs an apartment. He hired us to build him the apartment, and when the apartment is finished, he'll pay us for our work, and he'll have his apartment. And where are we going to go? Oh, make yourself your own apartment. This is not Dira B'Tachtenim. The Eibishter doesn't need a Dira to be by himself. Because to be by himself, he didn't have to create the world in the first place. A Dira is necessary when you have a relationship. When you're married, you need a Dira. When you're single, you don't need a Dira. You live in a dormitory, you sleep on a bench in 770, you don't need a Dira. So when the Eibishter says, V'asu li migdosh, you imagine? The Eibishter says, V'asu li migdosh, and everybody runs out to the hardware store to get some hammers and nails, saws. And the Eibishter says, what are you doing? Well, you said, V'asu li migdosh. So the Eibishter says, no, v'shachanti b'seichon. Can't you take a hint? If a man says to a woman, let's build a home, and she runs out and buys 2x4s, are you crazy? I said, wait, you said you want to build a home. It's that sneezdik way of saying, marry me. You also leave migdosh, but v'shachanti b'seichon. The Eibishter doesn't want a Dira B'Tachtenim where he can lock you out. Leave me alone, I'm going to my Dira now. We are the Dira B'Tachtenim. So is that not exciting? That's not a reason to get up? There's no question. This is going to be the future of all psychology. When a person comes to the psychologist a year from now and says, I have so many problems, I have so many worries, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, and the psychologist will say, so what? Eibishter needs something from you, why aren't you doing it? And that'll cure him. Say, oh, right. What am I worried about? If you think about it, this is Chassidus. But the way the Rebbe sees it. For a person to sit for 6 hours under a talus in order to develop a little more Avas Yisrael. So you're worried, do I have Avas Yisrael? I don't have Avas Yisrael. Was quetscht is alles. Take off the talus, buy a one-way ticket to a community somewhere where you're not invited and you're not wanted and nobody knows you, and we'll see your Avos Yisrael? So instead of looking inside, look at the world, ask yourself, what does the Eibishter expect of this world, and how can I help? And the result will be Avos Yisrael. If you sit under the talus today, hoping to have Avos Yisrael, the chances are you're going to get pretty sick. The kaiches we have today is not for Aveda Pnimi. The Aveda today is Aveda in Azulas. And that's not only Beruchnius, that's Pashat in mental health. In mental health, if you want to be healthy, think about somebody else. As soon as you start thinking about yourself, you're going downhill. This is the reality. Now, practically speaking, when we are told that we are the last generation of Golus and the first generation of Geula, it's kind of a warning. It's not all good news. Because to be in Golus is Golus. To be in Geula is wonderful. To be half here and half there is very difficult. So when the Rebbe says we are the last generation of Golus and the first generation of Geula, put on your seatbelts. This is going to be one crazy ride. So how should we function? Like we're in Golus or like we're in Geula? A little bit Golus, a little bit Geula. What do we do? I mean, the practical question is, I have the opportunity to start a building project. Should I? Well, Mashiach is coming, so what? So we have to act as if we're only in Golus, but we have to know that we're in Geula. Very difficult. It's a big mistake. So on the one hand, I didn't ask to be born. I don't want this. I can't stand this. Load me up. Stop making demands of me. But I don't yet have the L'Shamash Eskaini. So I'm halfway out of Golus, not completely in Geula. It's craziness. The good news is that which we considered a ruchnisdike, avoda, part of Yiddishkeit, part of Frumkeit, now it has Pashat become part of nature. So says the Shechina is coming down Lamata. What used to be Himmeldik is now becoming natural. So who is saying, I don't want these burdens, I don't need this, I didn't ask to be born? Who is saying, Ani le'nevresi? Not the frumer. The average guy in the street. It's becoming nature. But we have the answer. We have the cure. We have the direction. We have the wisdom. So before people get into serious problems, we have to start teaching. You don't have to. So when the Zayda says, the darf's davenen and the darf's lernen, and the Einikel says, ich darf nicht, who's right? The Einikel is right. That's why the Zaydas are losing this battle. In the end, the kids say, ich darf, ich darf. It's true. Because tell me what the conclusion is. Du musst daven. Nee. Answer that. Du musst. Ich muss, ich darf. Nee, du darfst yet. Why? What's the answer? Eventually you have to resort to a threat. There is one. You're not gonna find a good shidduch. Some kind of a threat which is no longer a good answer. We can't live life just to avoid death. It's klapnish. I don't know why it worked in the past. Maybe because you had a czar, you had an emperor, you had a king, and you got used to the fact that you better obey laws. I was driving this girl from Beis Chana. I was driving her to the bus station years ago. It was late at night. She had to catch a bus. There was no traffic. This is Minnesota, after 9 o'clock. So there's no traffic. There's no cars on the road. And I'm taking her to the bus. What are we talking in the car? She's completely new to Yiddishkeit. Why are there so many commandments? Why are there 613? Who made them? Who gave them? Where'd they come from? Anyway, I was speeding. The cop comes out of nowhere, pulls me over. He says, "Don't you believe in obeying laws?" We both cracked up, I'm not even going to tell you, you won't even believe how many laws I... But it was such a perfect question. I'm like, "Don't you believe in obeying laws?" No. I'm an American. There's no czar. Nobody's going to kill me. No, I don't. I don't even know if there's a president. So what? Whose laws? What laws? It doesn't work anymore. Now, Herman Wouk said to the Rebbe in the 50s, "How are you going to get people to be frum? This is, you can't tell Americans what to do. You can't tell Americans to do anything." This is in the 50s. And the Rebbe said, "You can't tell them to do anything, but you can teach them to do everything, because this is not Russia. Here, you can do everything." So what's the chesed? But that's the key. The key is you can't tell people that they have to, they need, and they must. They're not listening. It bounces off them, and they resent it. What you have to tell them is, you are so necessary. You are so necessary in the vast eternal plan for which the Eibishter created the world. No, it's not about you, and you don't need, but you can serve Him. That's the only answer. That's it. We're down to that truth and that fact. Not from religious reasons, and not from heavenly reasons, and not from edler reasons, just because that's the truth of life. That's sanity, that's healthy, that's true. And the Rebbe tells children to memorize the psukim. What kind of psukim does he choose? Dira b'tachtenim and simchas Hashem b'dirasei b'tachtenim. Which means, not about you. Not about you. So, if there is Hashem b'simcha, is not a requirement. If there is Hashem b'simcha, is a promise. If you stop thinking about yourself and you do what the Eibishter asks, you will be b'simcha, you will be healthy. If you think about what you need, the simcha is gone. Even if you have what you need. Which could explain why people who are successful and rich and famous are committing suicide. Again, it used to be a person with terrible, terrible problems in a real clem, and he doesn't know what to do and how to get out of the problem. That such a person commits suicide. What's the suicide today? What's it? It's because you can't fool your own nature. One more good. I was just talking to somebody about this. What does Hasidus consider insanity? You know the joke about a guy who comes running to his Rav and he says, Rebbe, I need help. My son is insane. He dances with women. He eats chazah. I'm shugana. So the rabbi said to him, sit down. Let me explain something to you. If your son danced with a chazah and ate women, that would be insane. Dancing with women and eating chazah, tormenish. Don't mix sanity with sanctity. What is considered insane? So if you look just in Tanya, what is the Ruach Shtus? If you don't know yourself, you're crazy. If you have illusions, if you're not real in your own assessment in who you are, you're crazy. Therefore, if you are not aware that you're a Jew and you don't act like a Jew, you are crazy. Well, how many times did the Rebbe say that? How can a Jew who is not being a healthy Jew be a healthy human? You gotta know who you are, where you are. What do we have to know in order to be sane? What does it mean to be makir mekayme? This is the punchline. Every person is going to say to you, what do you mean I don't need? I need to eat. I need to sleep. Achdus Hashem Echad means there are no two needs. There's only His. I need to eat is not a correct statement. I explained this once to a girl who was anorexic, and it helped. I need to eat. I don't need to eat. It's not true. It's not correct. I need to eat. I need to stop eating. It's not my need. I didn't create myself. I want to eat. I want to sleep half my life away. No, I don't. But I can better. So who needs me to sleep? The Uman Asher Asani. The Eibishter decided that I have to eat. And the Eibishter decided that I have to sleep. By saying I need it, that's Poshet Elohim Achid. What are you creating another God? It's the Eibishter's plan that you should eat, and you claim that it's yours? This is Mamash Avodah. So what's the truth? I don't need to eat. If I had my choice, if I could go without ever eating again, I'm a chayah. So it's not a need, and it's not mine. It's a handicap that I sometimes resent. Achdus Hashem, I'm saying this to a non-Jewish audience. What does it mean, monotheism? We're so proud the Jews gave the world monotheism. That was 3,000 years ago. Have you done anything lately? Monotheism, of course, doesn't mean there's only one God. It means there's only one architect. You don't make needs. You don't create needs. You don't have needs. The Eibishter makes it, the Eibishter chooses it, and it's all for divine purposes. Listen to how godliness comes down to earth. What does it mean? Besides Kol Masecha Eli L'Shem Shamayim, there's B'chol Drochecha Ve'ein. What does that mean? If you eat L'Shem Shamayim, how do you do that? You have a kavanah, the shas, the eating. You have a kavanah that the koyach you get from this food you will use to do a mitzvah. Thus is eating L'Shem Shamayim. Like all the people who sit down by a Shabbos meal and help themselves to the third kugel because Kovet Shabbos Koide Shem Shamayim. Every time you eat, you are eating because that's what the Eibishter wants. That's nicht dein kavanah. It's a fact. The only reason human beings eat is because Azay will der Eibishter. It's a fact. So, how do you eat L'Shem Shamayim? How do you eat not L'Shem Shamayim? You have to invent your own need. You can't invent things. So you don't need to eat. Everything you do, you go to sleep, but what are you doing? You're doing what the Eibishter created you to do. The chutzpah of calling it your own, that's Avodah Zarah. That's epicursus. So if you say, Ich darf essen, you're not epicursus. Who made you for a balabos? So this Bachel, years ago from America, went to Brunois. This is before Brunois had zitzes. You know what zitzes are? Indoor toilets. Before they had running water indoors, this American Bachel went to learn in Brunois. He didn't last a month. Using newspaper for toilet paper, not for an American boy. So he came back. But he was a different person. He was a different person for the rest of his life. Why? This is really sums it all up perfectly. The day he arrived, he went into the office to the minister. And he said, Ich darf rufen de Mama. Gotta call my mother, tell her I arrived. He said, I have to call my mother. But Nissen said, Was meint ich? And was meint darf? What do you mean I? And what do you mean need? It changed him. It clicked. I need to call my mother. No, you don't. What would be the correct way to say it? My mother needs to know that I arrived. I need nicht emes. But we thought that was like an aveda, that was like a bittul, that was like a skafye, that was like for the helikye. No, it's just not true. Du darfst nicht. Ani leine vreisi. That's normal. That is mental health, emotional stability. That's it. This is the Mashiach half of our existence. Until that becomes popular and widespread and established, we still have to look for treatment, for cure. You still have to give people a compliment. You have to listen to their problems. You have to hear them. You have to sympathize. You have to feel their pain. Then tell them, you don't have problems. Do what the Eibishter asks and you'll be fine. And it's true. Pasha B'Gashmi is true. So fact that you're on shlichus is the strongest proof, the strongest validation of this idea. The reason you're healthy, the reason you're normal, the reason you're stable, the reason you're emotionally more or less okay, because you're on shlichus. Think about it. If you were not on shlichus, you know what you would be? Scary to think. But because your problem is not you, you are the healthiest people in the world. And others are noticing, and they're jealous. So don't keep it a secret. Tell people what keeps you sane, and it'll help them be sane also. Do we have time for some conversation, questions? Who's in charge here?
Any questions with the microphone?
Yeah, so any questions? Yes, no? Yeah.
The person who is cool with Shabbos, I want to be cool with Shabbos, and take the other one.
If a person does something he's not allowed to do, that's what Abishai wanted him to do, or he decided to do it? Exactly the point. Exactly the point. The Yetzer Hara comes and says, you know what the Abishai said, but you need, right? That's where it all begins. The whole problem begins with the word I. There was a school of medicine that says that every illness, emotional, physical, mental, every illness is behavior that is appropriate someplace else, but not appropriate here. And this is really a useful tool. When a person is behaving a certain way that is crazy, the thing you want to do is identify where this behavior is not crazy. If you can identify where the behavior is not crazy, the person will stop behaving that way. For example, a woman is sitting, crying big tears. Nobody cares. Nobody pays attention to me. I'm all alone. I said, oh, you're an orphan? She said, no. I said, oh, boy, because you just sounded like an orphan. If nobody cares and nobody helps me, I'm going to die like an orphan. But you're not an orphan. She said, no, I'm not an orphan. It stopped. That feeling, nobody cares and it went away. Because I'm not an orphan. Once you identify the behavior for where it belongs, you can't fake it anymore, even subconsciously. So every illness is a behavior that is necessary and correct someplace else, but not here. Even physically. You get a cramp, a muscle cramp. What is that? When you're picking up a heavy weight, your muscles have to tighten. So when you're lifting the weight and your muscle tightens, perfect. You're not lifting a weight and your muscle tightens, that's crazy. That's inappropriate. So every inappropriate behavior is an illness. A Jew who is acting like he's not Jewish is not good, is not healthy. By definition, that is an unhealthy person.
Another question for you, Scott?
What are good ideas or perhaps suggestions for people in your community? In other words, of course, me as a shliach, I understand that this person's selfish, self-centered, etc. So, of course, and I would love for if you give more money to tzedakah, or you come volunteer with us, or whatever. There's so many suggestions I could give them today until tomorrow. But in a practical day of a person who's working a 9-to-5 job, how do you start giving them more of that opportunity?
A person comes to you and says,
Repeat the question.
how do you help a person who has needs, he feels needs, and he's suffering from them? You say, that's terrible. That's so bad. Every day you have to go to work and you have to fight all those people and you have to compete with everybody else. Really, that is so miserable. Why? Why do we have to do that? So now you're his best friend because you understand it. The next step is, actually, we don't need this. I would resent having all those burdens and all those. What do I need it for? And the best example, of course, is tzedakah. You're asking him to give tzedakah. Does he need it? He needs to give tzedakah, he doesn't. And that's the best part of the whole tzedakah thing. The best part of tzedakah is you don't need to do this. Somebody needs your help. So to boil it down, so that you can remember the whole thing, the bechira, ubacharta, bachayim, what exactly are we choosing? That means something. The choice, the bechira, is a very simple thing. You can either focus on your needs, which makes you needy, or you can focus on what you are needed for, which makes you happy. And that's the Hayin game. Where the Alter Rebbe told the Chassid, was du darfst, your needs you spoke about, you have a whole list. What are you needed for, you didn't even mention. And the person became a new human being. The future is a superhuman being. When we're not going to die, you're not going to be able to use that as a threat. When Gehenna is closed, you're not going to use that as a threat. So what are we going to be? Bigger than human. Not needy, necessary.
What is, I don't understand. That's like a quick one-liner back and forth with him. I'm just trying to understand what's a good follow-up to give him. Practical steps that are, I don't know.
Do a mitzvah. Do what you don't need, but somebody needs. That'll make your life livable. But first you have to empathize and sympathize and show that you understand. That Itaki is a burden. And we shouldn't be burdened. We're not animals, we're not donkeys. We shouldn't be carrying around burdens.
What he's not feeling, it's not as confident as the first. He's living life, he's doing his thing. He doesn't have a mental illness, but he's just self-centered. I think that's kind of his question is, how do you help him realize that there's more to life than himself?
When you talk about others, talk about his kids. How do you convince a person who's completely happy that there's more to life? You talk about those who are unhappy, and then he has to be able to apply it to himself in his quiet moment.
Help him get out of that box.
This is really not only life-changing, it could be life-saving. I've seen it happen. Pasha saved lives. People who are on the verge of quitting, and it turned around.
Is there anything?
When you're working with youth and college for many years, when do you differentiate between a person using religion as an escape, and the observance is more OCD than, everybody here, we want everybody in our Chabad to have kapatas, but we, at some point, some of us realize that they're all crazy. It's not natural, it's not...
You don't want everybody in a kapata. Don't go there.
I get that. My point was, there has to be a balance when you realize it. And telling a person, well, this is beautiful, maybe take a few steps back. Or the other side is where a person says religion makes him OCD and he doesn't want to put on film because he feels very anxious.
See, that only proves the problem. Why have we been, not we, people have been telling others to be religious because of the benefits. This will give you peace of mind, and this will give you stable family, and this will protect you from cancer, whatever, right? Why do we do that? Because we're working with the assumption that people have needs, and if you provide their needs, they'll be your best friend. That's what used to be. It's not working anymore. Now we have to introduce a whole new idea. What you don't need is the best thing in the world. No, it's not about you. What a relief. You take the depressing, suicidal motivation out of the picture. It's not about you. You're absolutely right. You don't need burdens, and you don't need challenges, and you don't need tests. Nothing. Nothing. But
Do you walk them back?
But you are absolutely necessary in a divine plan. So when you do a mitzvah, you are doing something you don't need. And again, this is part of the Rebbe's revolution. Even mitzvahs that are logical and sensible and seemingly necessary, the mishpatim, they're really chukim. It's such a relief. You don't have to be a chacham, and you don't have to be a tzaddik, and you don't have, we're not asking you for any of these challenges, or do what you're needed for. That's light. That's buoyant. It gives you chayus. It doesn't take from you chayus. So actually, I was speaking to a minister, a pastor in Minnesota, and they're all very polite, very nice. It's Minnesota. I'm introduced to this guy. He's in his 60s, and without any bad feelings, he said his first words were, "So, do you believe in the Savior?" So I said, I don't know too much about Christianity, but I'm not looking for a God that's going to save me. I'm looking for a God whom I can serve. This man started to cry. He says, I never even thought of that. This is working. You tell somebody, you're so needy? Why are you needy? Do what the Eibishter wants. Wow, what a relief. People react to it so strongly and so positively. Except Frumayid. Really. Frumayid, my avoid, my tikkun, I have to make a tikkun. You're going to go to Gehenna. Stop it already. Settle down. And you won't be the only one there. Zorg zich niet. You'll have who to talk to. Actually, this is one final thing. I was explaining to a group of people that Gehenna is not a place. You go to Gehenna. What do you do there? Oh, you burn. Yeah, and that's your punishment. You don't go to Gehenna because Gehenna is not a place. There's no such place. Gehenna means the painful adjustment to being a neshama without a guf, when you're so used to being a guf. I explained it, and this one woman summed it up so well. I never put it in these words that is so. She says, "Oh, so what you're saying is, getting to heaven is hell." That's exactly right. What is Gehenna? Gehenna means the painful path to Gan Eden. You don't go to Gehenna. It's not a destination. On your way to Gan Eden, it's a difficult path. So getting to heaven is hell. So what, you want to get there without? You don't want to go to get to Gan Eden? Getting to Gan Eden. So for some people, it's 12 months, and for some people it's a week, and for some people it's a shmek. Take a whiff, you got it? Okay, you're going right there. Gehenna is the path to Gan Eden. Not a place. So you're going to go through Gehenna. What do you expect? Not to go through Gehenna? You go straight to Gan Eden? Not going to go straight. So all that self-serving, and today really it's an insult when people say, if you want somebody to become more observant, you got to tell them what's in it for them. No, you don't. Not today. Today it ruins it. Any sensible human being, if you say, if you keep mitzvahs, you'll be healthier, you'll be richer, God will bless you, God turns them off. Doesn't work. If you tell them, do something you don't need, stop talking about yourself. My son in Santa Cruz started a course for prisoners, basically on this subject. And the prisoners developed, the ones who took the course, they developed like a code among themselves. And when the conversation gets a little too intense, one of them will say, wait, are we still talking about you? And everybody lightens up. No, not about me. This is what is working for today's generation. And you got to start very young. Very young. The experts say you should ask your child, would you like this or that? Give them choices. The color of their cereal. What they want to wear today. Whether they want to go to this park or that park. Whether they want to go to the park or they don't want to go to the park. Don't do that. Make them crazy. Put out some cereal. If they're hungry, they'll eat it. Don't make a menu. First of all, don't make an issue out of food. That's an important. Children should not be too picky with food. But also the idea, give them choices. Yeah, not about this. Not about food. Not about colors. Not about... So what do you want to do today? You want to go to the park? You're talking to a 3-year-old? Tell them you're going to the park. Don't burden people, even at a young age. And when you tell them to make a bracha, you tell them the Eibishter is waiting to hear a bracha. Not you have to make a bracha. Talk straight. Anyway, Hatzlacha Rabba, enjoy the kinos.